it's been a whole year now, and I finally have another excuse to do another religious hoedown. By now you all probably have some idea how this works, but for noobs and the forgetful, here's a quick refresher. I pick 4 religious video games and pit them against each other to decide which is the best. The games don't have to specifically fit a criteria, as pickings are slim enough, but this series covers games which are typically made about or for that religion, which are heavily based on that religion in its themes, or it's made in a country that is predominantly that religion, and this reflects in the product. This series is a fun little look into each religion's contribution to the world of video games, and seeing which effort bore the most fruit. The games and religions will be Muslim 3D for Islam, Kings of Israel for Judaism, the Bible game on Game Boy for Christianity, and Cosmology of Kyoto for Buddhism. So a few years ago on my original religious hoedown in 2017, I took a look at the Bible game on PS2, which was a virtual game show based around Bible questions and Bible-themed minigames. Upon finding out that there's a Game Boy version, I opted to take a look to see how the Game Boy translated to the PS2's simple but well executed little game. The answer was, it doesn't, it's a completely different game. The Bible game on Game Boy is an old-school action-adventure game, like the kind you'd find on NES or SNES. The best comparison I could come up with is the Bill and Ted video game on NES, in the way that it's designed at the very least, but this game is significantly better due to the fact that it wasn't made by LJN. The story of the game centers around the armor of God and acquiring the armor. These ignorant heathen children don't know what it is, so they're educated with a good thrashing. Nah, I'm just kidding. Sadly. This lady explains that the armor protects us from deceivers who are liars who cause us to make mistakes. I think this is more the armor of due diligence than the armor of God, but whatever. She explains that you can't see it and you gain it by studying the Bible, which we prove false in this game as we acquire a physical armor of God. Deceiver! Oh, no time for that now. The Master Deceiver has escaped. Who will save us now? Bible Man! So we're asked to pick a character. The girl seems like the most pure of heart when she says,
"The armor of God will look good on me."
I mean, with that pureness of heart, how could she possibly be corrupted by dark forces? I select her and she loses her clothes, which are replaced by a white robe. That's odd, but okay. We're transported back to the 1950s where some old lady is waiting for us.
I think I saw a deceiver that way.
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, but the combination of the Nazi salute and this Death Eater here, how do I not find this funny? Okay, so let me elaborate as to what we're looking at here. The game's objective is to build up a key out of key pieces. The key pieces are built up of fragments attained by defeating deceivers. Deceivers are little imp creatures, kinda like the ones from Oblivion. They fly around and you have to run up to them and thump them with your Bible. After Bible thumping them, you have to answer some questions on the Bible. You have to answer a good chunk of them correctly, and you get the key pieces. You get enough key pieces to form a key. You use the key to open the door and move on to the next level. You more or less have to figure this shit out for yourself, but it's at least really simple once you get the hang of it. Heretics. Please kill me. So the questions are mostly about the Bible, both Old and New Testaments. Most of my biblical knowledge comes from The Simpsons, Johnny Cash songs, 5 Guardians of David, and being groomed by a death cult. So yeah, I'm sure I'll ace this. So on the first level, the questions are quite softball, and most of them would probably be answerable to most people. Like, who's Abraham's son, and that kind of jazz. They get much harder later on, and I ended up having to Google a lot of them towards the end. Even then, the questions surpassed even my Google foo skills, and some of the answers that Google gave me were apparently wrong. In some cases, the Bible game itself misspelled characters' names, calling one of them Rehab instead of the name that they're actually supposed to have. My least favourite kind of question in the game is like, who said one in the pink and one in the stink? Was it Paul, John, or Peter? I don't fucking know, one of them said it, can't that be enough? Does credit really matter when you're doing the Lord's work? Fine, fuck you I guess. I find it hard to properly guess, because they all have the same personality as far as I can tell. It's not like picking quotes from Joey Chandler and Ross. They all have the exact same demeanour and the same writing style, so who the fuck knows which one said it? I'm pretty sure actual devout Christians would have a hard time getting every single one of those right. Unless there's literally a guy who can read one of these passages and go, ah, classic Luke, ah, John, you old devil, like, no. So, I defeated the last of this level's deceivers on the steps of a church and it opened the way to the next level. Said level is a desert oasis full of scarabs, palm trees and sand.
I don't like sand.
Fuck off. I accidentally kill myself by hitting a suicide button. Note that this was an emulation problem by the way, not a game problem. And find out upon death that respawning, you do a weird flip in the air. So I guess that was good. I asked Sinbad over here where the fuck I go next and he points to this road. I follow his exact instructions only to find nothing.
I think I saw a deceiver. That way.
No, Sinbad. The only deceiver around these parts is you. By now, I've acquired the skirt and boots of the Crusader and have ended up in some fairy tale forest. How did I go from the 1950s to this? It really doesn't have much logical flow to it. A bridge appears after I defeat enough deceivers, commencing the most irritating level to navigate as it all looks the same and the bits that are sectioned off are arbitrary as fuck. I then meet some weirdo who stands around holding some sort of club who tells me where the Redeemer is. I swear these characters are often setting accurate, but they still feel weird. Like I'm not sure what this guy is meant to be. At least Sinbad fit the setting and made some sense. You also have to enter these semi-platformer segments where it turns into a really shit side-scroller, and you have to run from one end to the other, jumping over holes and not getting eaten alive by scarabs. It's not bad when you have a rhythm going, but the odd occasion that I missed the mark or didn't jump in time was somewhat annoying. I think you end up mostly getting banished outside of the cave and having to find your way back in again. I don't feel like these segments add much, especially not in the early stages. Granted, they do allow you to go to different parts of the levels using the same doorway and navigating the cave system differently every time, but in all honesty, I just prefer there to be different doors that took you to different places instead, because this is just kind of annoying, especially in the later levels where it's like a massive underground maze that doesn't make any fucking sense. The Redeemers in this game have really weird voices with really weird voice effects and weird dialogue.
This ought to be interesting. If at first you don't succeed, quit.
I believe their voices get deeper the lower into hell you descend, but I could be wrong. Who was the mother of Dinah? How the fuck should I know? The next level is, I don't know, the 90s or something. I mean, looking at how people dress in some of these levels, I couldn't honestly tell you when or where they're supposed to be. This level was especially difficult to navigate, but even more difficult to answer the questions for. This is where the difficulty really ramps up. So I beat this level and unlocked the helmet of the Crusader, or whatever we're calling it. It has a red Roman plume, which I was pretty sure was unique to this game, but apparently there are a handful of depictions of the armour of God that have a red Roman plume. I don't quite get why, but okay. After a bit of playing, the questions get a lot more frustrating. For example, in this question it asks where the fuck the angel stood in this part of the story. So I look it up and get met with this painting, where the angel is stood on the left. So I tried that as the answer and it's apparently wrong. So fuck you, painter of the painting. Fuck you. Should have paid more fucking attention in fucking Sunday school, you prick. So this level is a bit weird because the fucking deceivers are on an island and this causes the AI to shit itself, so no matter where you ask them, they point in the wrong direction. Like they keep trying to tell you that they're in the middle of the ocean, which they're not. So you more or less have to navigate this network of tunnels in order to find the fuckers. And this is what I was talking about earlier. I honestly much prefer just to not have this in the game. Sure, it would be a lot easier to the point where it would be kind of ridiculously easy, but I prefer that to running around these fucking caves for hours. I reached the final level, which is like Tesco value Mount Doom. Like, it's not quite as good. It's like Pontins compared to Disneyland. So the final thing is the quiz to end all quizzes. This gets you the greatest ending of any game ever.
I kick ass for the Lord!
I might just give this game the prize for the Hoedown. Just based on that ending. I mean, fuck man, Kojima and David Cage would have wet dreams over an ending that deep and meaningful and fucking ambiguous. This, overall, is a decently made game. It's dated for its time and repetitive as fuck, but I've played worse. I feel it was surprising how different this game was to the PS2 counterpart. Not sure what I expected, but I feel like the surprise was pleasant. It was at least interesting, at the very least. I feel that this was more of a game than the other two games. It was an alright little thing, but it didn't really have enough content in it to take 4 or so hours to beat. I look over it and most of my playtime is just looking at these fucking Bible questions, and that's far from fun. Muslim 3D was less of a game than this, but a lot more fun and enjoyable. This one kind of felt like it outstayed its welcome. Like, if this was 2 hours shorter, I probably would have enjoyed it all around. I got more out of it than Kings of Israel, at least in terms of footage and things to talk about, but I found Kings of Israel to be a much more enjoyable game. Well, that's 3 out of 4. Join me next time for the finale, where we go to Kyoto, Japan, and explore a video game that Roger Ebert loves the shit out of. Which should hopefully be soon, unless YouTube puts me back on the naughty step for dunking on pedophiles. Toodles.
You are a liar, actress, go the fuck out.
Professor Curious is a fucking spurg.